Every single hack you will ever perform, every bug bounty payout, every vulnerability you find starts with one thing: a request traveling from a browser to a server and a response coming back. That's the web. And here's the problem. Most people learning to hack skip straight to the attacks without ever understanding this journey. So when the payload fails, they have no idea why. Today we fix that. We'll follow one web request from the moment you press enter all the way to the pixels on your screen, and at every step I'll show you exactly where the attacks live. By the end, you'll see the web the way an attacker does. Let's start with the single most important model in all of web security, the client and the server. Get this right, and everything else clicks into place. Here's the whole web in one picture. On one side, the client, that's your browser, Chrome, Firefox, Safari. On the other side, the server, a computer somewhere in the world whose entire job is to wait for requests and send back responses. The client asks, the server answers. When you open a website, your browser sends a request. The server receives it, does some work, and sends back a response, usually a bundle of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Your browser turns that bundle into the page you see. That word request is the heartbeat of the web. Everything is request and response, back and forth, thousands of times a day. And for a hacker, every one of those requests is something you can intercept, read, and modify. Hold on to that. It's the foundation of everything. So you type a web address and hit enter. Before anything travels anywhere, your browser has to understand that address. This is a URL, a uniform resource locator, and it's not a random string. It has structure, and every part tells the browser something. Let's break down a real one. First, the scheme, HTTPS, that's the protocol, and the S means encrypted. Next, the host, shop.example.com, the name of the machine you want to reach. Then an optional port, the specific door on that machine, usually 443 for HTTPS. Then the paths, /product/42, which resource you want. After a question mark, the query string, key value pairs like id equals 42, extra data you're sending. And after a hash, the fragment, a spot on the page itself. Why does this matter for security? Because attackers live in these paths. That path, that query string, those are values you control, and if the server trusts them blindly, that's where injection, idle, and a dozen other bugs begin. Reading a URL like a map is your first real hacking skill. Now, there's a problem. You typed a name, but computers don't talk in names. They talk in numbers? So how does example.com become an actual address? That's DNS. DNS, the domain name system, is the phone book of the internet. Its job is to turn a human-friendly name like example.com into an IP address, a number like 93.184.216.34 that computers use to find each other. Here's what happens the instant you hit enter. First, your browser checks its own cache. Have I looked this up recently? If not, it asks a resolver, usually run by your internet provider or a service like Cloudflare or Google. If the resolver doesn't know either, it starts asking around. It goes to a root server which says, I don't know example.com, but I know who handles.com, ask them. It asks the .com TLD server, the top level domain server, which says, I know the authoritative name server for example.com. Finally, it asks that authoritative server, which holds the real answer and returns the IP. Your browser now knows where to send its request. This whole relay happens in milliseconds. And for hackers, DNS is a goldmine. Every subdomain, mail, staging, dev, admin is a DNS record, and mapping them all is called subdomain enumeration. It's one of the first things you'll do on every bug bounty target, because forgotten subdomains pointing at dead servers lead to subdomain takeover. There's a whole episode coming on this. For now, remember, names become numbers, and DNS is how. We have an IP address. Now the browser has to open a connection to that server, and here two more layers come in, TCP and TLS. First, TCP, the transmission control protocol. Think of it as establishing a reliable phone line before you talk. It uses a three-way handshake. Your browser says, I'd like to connect. The server replies, sign. ACK, sure, I'm here. Your browser says ACK, great, let's go. 3 steps. And now there's a solid channel where no data gets lost. But if the address started with HTTPS, there's a second handshake, TLS, transport layer security, the thing that puts the lock icon in your address bar. Before any real data moves, the browser and server negotiate encryption keys, and the server proves its identity with a certificate. From then on, everything is scrambled, so anyone in the middle on the same Wi-Fi sees only gibberish, not your passwords or cookies. This is why HTTPS matters, and why plain HTTP is dangerous on public networks. As a tester, You live inside this encrypted channel, and tools like Burp Suite work by sitting in the middle on purpose, decrypting the traffic so you can read and modify it. But that's only possible because you control your own machine. Man in the middle with permission versus without, that's the whole difference between security testing and a crime. The connection is open and encrypted. Now finally, the browser sends the actual message. And this message, the HTTP request, is where you'll spend most of your career as a hacker. So let's look at a real one. HTTP, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, is the language the client and server speak. And it's just text, simple enough to read with your own eyes. A request has three parts. First, the request line, a method, a path, and the version. The method is the verb, what you want to do. Beans, give me something. Post means, here's some data, take it. There's also put, delete, ph, and more. Second, the headers, line after line of key value metadata. The host header says which site. The cookie header carries your session, this is what keeps you logged in, and one of the most attacked values on the web. The user agent says what browser you are. And third, after a blank line, the optional body, the actual data, like your username and password, the server reads all this and sends back a response, which also has three parts, a status code, headers, and a body. The status code is the server's one-word mood. 200 means, okay, here you go. 3001 means moved. 44 means not found. 43 means forbidden. 500 means the server broke. Learn these numbers, their constant feedback while you test. The response headers carry security critical settings, and the body is usually the HTML of the page. Here's the key shift. Every request is fully under your control. The method, the path, the headers, the cookies, the body, all of it is just text you can change before it's sent. The server stays secure only if it treats every bit of that attacker-controlled text with suspicion. When it doesn't, that's the bug. So the request arrives at the server. What actually happens there? A server is rarely one thing. It's usually a stack. First, the request hits a web server, software like Nginx or Apache, whose job is to receive the connection and route the request. It might serve a static file directly, like an image or a style sheet, or for anything dynamic, it hands off to the application, the backend code, written in something like Python, Node, PHP, or Java. This is where the real logic lives, checking who you are, deciding what you're allowed to do, and building your response. And when the app needs stored data, your profile, your orders, and other users' information, it queries the database, where all the valuable data lives. The database answers, the app builds a response, and it travels back to your browser. Now look at this chain, because as a hacker, it's your treasure map. The web server can leak information or be misconfigured. The application is where authentication flaws, business logic bugs, and access control mistakes live. And the database is the prize, the target of SQL injection, the thing attackers are ultimately trying to reach. Modern apps also expose APIs, structured endpoints that speak JSON instead of HTML, and those are now one of the richest sources of bugs in all of bug bounty. Every box in this diagram is a future episode. The response has made the whole journey back to your browser. But a pile of HTML isn't a web page yet. Watch how the browser turns raw code into the page you actually see, because this last step is home to an entire class of attacks. When the HTML arrives, the browser runs a pipeline to turn it into pixels. Step 1. It passes the HTML into the DOM, the document object model, a live tree of every element on the page. Remember DOM? It's one of the most important words in web security. Step 2. It passes the CSS into a matching tree, the CSSOM, which describes how everything looks. Step 3. It combines the DOM and CSSOM into a render tree, only the things that will actually be shown. Step 4. Layout. The browser calculates exactly where each element goes, its size and position. And step 5, paint. It draws the pixels on your screen. But there's one more ingredient that changes everything, JavaScript. JavaScript is code that runs inside your browser, and it can reach into that DOM tree and change it live, add elements, rewrite text, read your cookies, send new requests. That power is what makes modern web apps feel like apps. It's also exactly what makes cross-site scripting, XSS, the most common vulnerability on the web. If an attacker can sneak their own JavaScript into a page you trust, that code runs in your browser, with your session as you. The entire reason XSS is so dangerous lies right here in this rendering step. Understand the DOM, and you're halfway to understanding XSS. So let's put the whole journey back together, because now you can see the web the way an attacker does. URL, DNS turns the name into an address. And that's where subdomain enumeration and takeover live. A connection opens with TCP and TLS, and weak configuration there is its own finding. The browser sends an HTTP request, and every header, every parameter, every cookie is attacker-controlled input, the soil that injection and access control bugs grow in. The request hits the web server, the application, and the database, and that path is where SSRF, authentication flaws, and SQL injection wait. The response comes back, the browser renders it, and that's the home of cross-site scripting. Here's the big idea. A web application isn't one wall to get past. It's a chain of steps, and security means every single step has to be right. The attacker only needs one weak link. That's why understanding this journey isn't optional. It's the map that every technique in this series is built on. Miss the map, and hacking feels like random luck. Know the map, and it becomes a method. Let's lock it in. When you type a URL and hit enter, 1. The browser passes the URL. 2. DNS turns the name into an IP address. 3. TCP and TLS open a secure connection. 4. The browser sends an HTTP request with headers and cookies. 5. The server's web layer, application, and database process it. 6. A response comes back with a status code and a body. 7. The browser builds the DOM and renders the page. And 8. JavaScript runs and can change everything. 8 steps between pressing enter and seeing a page, and an attacker is studying every one. In short, this sequence is the backbone of the next 98 episodes. If this finally made the web click for you, hit subscribe because we're just getting started and every episode builds on this one. In the next video, we go deep on HTTP and HTTPS, requests, responses, methods, status codes, and the headers that quietly run the entire web. It's the layer you'll touch in every single hack, so you want to know it cold. Drop a comment with the one part of this journey you want me to break down further. I read everyone. See you in the next episode.